for Million Dollar Wednesday. Kim, my favorite day of the week. Kim, what's going on today?
So, Greg, I'm just in a really cold studio room in Bali at the moment, and I'm not enjoying it because I'm used to the heat.
Well, don't freeze on us over there.
I'll
Today
be
we
fine.
have today we have an exciting session that I know everyone has been waiting for a while. These are our product updates. This is how our products have been doing throughout the year. We get a lot of questions like, hey, how's this product doing? How's that product doing? Whatever. So today we're going to share all that with you. We're going to share the financial numbers with you guys. You'll get to see how each individual product's coming along, and Kim will also give us an update on her sleeping bag. Kim, anything we're forgetting before we get started?
No, well, do we still want to do an introduction to the $1 million case study? Do you think anybody doesn't know what it is yet?
Give us the intro real quick, Kim.
So, over the whole course of 2017, we as Jungle Scout have been finding and launching products on Amazon and documenting every single step of the way, and we're donating all of the profits to charity.
And this is session number 19. So if you're just figuring about this now, you need to go to junglescout.com/million, sign up for the case study so you can learn a little bit more about it for yourself. With that being said, I'm going to switch over to my slides. I have a slide deck for you guys, and we're going to share how all these products have been coming along. So before we do that real quick, as you guys know who have been following along at junglescout.com/giveaway, every week we're doing a giveaway. We're giving away licenses to our products as well as t-shirts. This week, the people listed here are some of the winners, and I also want to congratulate Nick. Nick posted this screenshot of the sales in the first week, and it's a little bit blurry, so hard to see, but it looks like on one day he already had 40 sales, another day almost 60 sales, which is absolutely incredible. So congratulations, Nick. That is amazing. On today's session, like we said, we're going to give you guys all of the updates. So we're going to let you know how our FBA business has performed as a whole, updates on Jungle Stix and Jungle Snugs. We're going to let you know about what worked this year and what didn't work, and then plans for the future and how we're progressing on the $1 million goal. A lot of you guys already know this, but this is a philanthropic case study. We're donating 100% of the profits that we make from our FBA business to charity. So in 2016, we made our donations to Doctors Without Borders. This year in 2017, we're donating to Pencils of Promise. Every $35,000 that we raise for Pencils of Promise builds a school in a developing country around the world. And so we've already donated $35,000 to them, with more big checks to come. And we just have some pictures there of us bragging with our big checks. But we're almost to $500,000. It's going to be close whether or not we hit the 500,000 mark by the end of 2017, but we're really close. It depends on how these last couple weeks of sales do. So we'll let you know if we don't hit $500,000 in sales, we will right at the beginning of 2018. But I think I did say that was my goal, to hit 500,000 this year, which would be excellent. Talk to us a little bit more about our sales and our seasonality, Kim.
Sure. So as you can see in this graph, our sales are growing, and that is to be expected because we launched the first product, Jungle Stix, and have since launched with more products, the Jungle Snugs, of which there are a few different variations. So sales are growing, which is great, but we can also see on this graph that there's not really too much seasonality. There's sort of maybe a little bit more sales towards the end of the year, but that's kind of normal for e-commerce. So yeah, it looks really healthy to me that we're not getting all of our sales on certain times of the year for across all of our products.
Yeah, it is good. And I also kind of just note, looking at this trend overall, that most FBA businesses see a pretty large spike worth of sales in between like Black Friday and Christmas. We don't quite see that as much. The Jungle Snugs have picked up around, in Q4. Our Jungle Stix, though, they're actually more popular in September and October than they are after Thanksgiving and before Christmas. So that's just a little bit of interesting trend with our particular business. It's going to obviously vary from business to business. I know people doing, selling toys, they'll sell like 10 or 20 times this amount this time of year. So it's going to be different depending on what kind of products you sell. Let's talk a little bit about our expenses. I think people are, this is good information for people to know. For our particular business, our order fees make up more than half of our expenses. A large reason for this is because our jungle sticks are an oversized item and they only sell for around like $22 and there's like $10 of fees. So a large portion of our costs are due to the order fees. We also spend about 14% of our overall costs are due to PPC, which we put a note here. It's a little bit higher to do this case study since we run different like tests and there's also, it's kind of challenging because like we show you guys what keywords are working well for us, which ones aren't, and then our competitors are watching that and they overbid our keywords a little bit, but that's part of it and that's fine. So 14%, but keep in mind that's not 14% of our revenue, that's 14% of our costs, which I actually think is fine. Our shipping costs overall are fairly low. And then, our cost of goods, of course, the cost to actually purchase these products makes up a decent amount too. But it's it probably would be interesting for most people to see and to realize that, at least for our particular business, the cost of goods only makes up 18% of all of our costs, which most people would probably think right away, that's like 100%. But once you factor in all of Amazon's fees, which for us are more than our costs, PPC, everything else, the price of buying the goods is actually only a certain fraction of that. Jungle Stix is still our best performing product. So far this year, we sold about 9,000 units, made about $38,000. Probably by the end of the year, we'll make 40, maybe 42,000 or so in profits. Overall margins are about 20%. This is year to date. They were actually they've actually in the past 2 or 3 months, they've been better. I think closer to 25, 26%. But year to date is what we're looking at here. And overall our margins there are 20%, which is about the industry average from all the sellers that I've talked to, my other Amazon business across the board. Once you factor in everything, order fees, cost of goods, pay-per-click, shipping, returns, all of this, or this is even, our images, our photography, everything else. This Amazon business is running at about 20% margins. So yeah, I think overall, like I said, it's about industry standard, and I think that's a solid amount. Most brick and mortar stores who are selling physical products don't get anywhere close to 20% margins. So yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with it. Kim, talk to us a little bit about our Jungle Snugs and how they're coming along.
Yep. So I've actually been running some promotions on them lately, and that's actually worked really well. So I've put a few promotions up and done some work on the PPC, and that since I've done that in the past week, the sales have really started to pick up, which is a good sign because this is a good gift for the season. But overall, the sales have been doing well. So you can see here that the pink ones, which I would have never expected this, but the pink ones sold the most units, and then followed by the white and the blue. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I thought people were all into like gender neutral stuff these days, but Amazon.
Yeah, I think also one of the things we realized with this is there's of course a lot, thousands or tens of thousands of people following along with this case study. When we launched this product, there was probably, or there still are, there was probably at least 20, maybe closer to 30 or 40 people who more or less, followed along with the case study a little bit too closely. They just launched the exact same products as we did. So that obviously added to the competitive landscape. The product's still successful. still selling hundreds of units every month. It's still profitable. So at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal, having these extra 30 or 40 or whatever competitors that are following along with this case study. But I think probably one of the reasons that the pink has done better than the rest is it's less common. A lot of our copycat, like all of our copycats have the white one. Some have the blue. I think only a few have the pink. But I guess now that we've released this to the world, we'll see some more pink ones in January, but oh well. And we also released a gray one. We noticed on Amazon that the gray hooded baby towels were doing really well. So with our first reorder, we added one more SKU, one more color. And in addition to the pink, white, and blue, we added this gray one. It's still kind of early to tell because it's only been for sale for like a week or two, but kind of early signs so far looking good. And yeah, it's one way to, again, kind of differentiate ourselves from all those people who are kind of exactly copying our case study, at least for a month or two until they release this one too. Kim put this slide in here. I think this is a really good point that a lot of you guys watching this, listening to this are probably familiar with the 80-20 rule. And what that is kind of, like 20% essentially of the 20% of the work you do makes up like 80% of the results. And that is so far, I'd say, holding true with our Amazon business. The Jungle Stix are still making maybe 70% of our sales or something. And yeah, they're even a little bit easier than the Jungle Snugs. For us, I'd say this is for a few reasons. One, back when we launched the Jungle Stix, there weren't as many people following along with Jungle Scout, so a lot less people copied that is what they did, copy the hooded baby towels. So we're able to get in that one like a little bit earlier with a lot less competition. What else do you think, Kim? Why else, or what other thoughts do you have to add to this one?
Yeah, I think it was also just a thought that I added because I've met quite a few sellers recently, and some of them have said, how many products do you sell? And they said, oh, quite a few. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. Do you make most of your revenue and profits from a small amount of those SKUs or ASINs? And pretty much everyone that I've asked that question has said yes. And it's not that they disregard the products that sell less, because they still make up a significant part of the business, just like Jungle Snugs does. But I find it really interesting to hear that tends to be the general rule with most Amazon sellers. So
Yeah, that's a
I
good
guess the
point.
main thing is not to be discouraged. Like, if not every single product is going to be Jungle Stix, right? And that's okay.
Right. So not every single product hits that out of the park. But as long as it's still selling, like Jungle Snug still sells thousands of dollars a month, right? It still makes us over $1,000 a month. So it's not like it should be disregarded, like you said. But the more products you launch, the more chance that you have certain products in your product line that do really well. Yeah, that's a really good point. Kim, talk to us a little bit about the Jungle Slumber and how it's coming along.
Yeah, so I announced in the last session that we've got the photography, which I was really, really happy with. We're going to be launching in the UK for the new year. So I do have the product listing all ready and raring to go. So once the stock gets there, then I'm going to go in with the launch progress. And then just as a reminder, if anybody missed the earlier sessions, I went back and took a look at like what an updated view of what sort of revenue the current top sellers are generating per month in the UK marketplace, and it was between like 2.5 and 5k. So these are like the sleeping bags in the UK marketplace that sell well, which for us could mean that's like up to $6,700 revenue per month. So all being well, if we can build it up and rank really well and get lots of organic and PPC sales in for these sleeping bags in the UK, then that'll be a nice revenue stream to add to the business as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess if all goes to plan, that's an extra $100,000 a year in revenue, essentially, which, that's a significant amount of money. Again, if we can do 20% margins there, it's an extra 20K a year of profit, which would be fantastic. We want to be fully transparent with you guys, so we thought it's only fair to kind of include what's gone well this year, and then we also want to share some of our kind of like hiccups or struggles or road bumps that we hit along the way. So some of the things that went well, we at the end of the year, the sleeping bag listing's already, the first unit of inventory is not there yet. We can kind of talk about that as one of our hiccups, but overall we have 3 products now that have been ordered. Listings created, 7 SKUs, and we've diversified into 2 different marketplaces. So, the Stix and the Snugs, so the marshmallow sticks and the baby towels are in the US. We're launching Kim's sleeping bags in the UK. So yeah, it's kind of nice to diversify across multiple marketplaces. It's a great opportunity for you guys to kind of see how to launch in the EU markets and that as an expansion opportunity. I think it's safe to say that what went well is overall sales, since we're close to $500,000 in revenue. And again, 20% margins or whatever, so about $100,000 in profit, which is solid. I think it's actually a little bit over that, but that's a good guideline at least. Yeah, one of the things that, when you're doing public case studies like this, one of the things that we're kind of worried about is like, okay, we know a lot of people are going to exactly copy us when we share all of everything that's working, which keywords are working for us, how we're doing our keyword research, the exact product, our factory, everything else. So one of our concerns is is it even possible for this product to do well when we do all this stuff fully 100% transparently? So we're worried about that, and the worries have kind of been diminished a little bit because, like we said, we had dozens and dozens of direct competitors that it was very obvious that they were just following along the case study and launching at the same time we were. But our products are still doing well, right? So, I think this is also a good lesson to you guys to know that, some people I know are worried about what happens if I find a good product, but by the time I've launched, there's 2 other people kind of in my space. It's well, we did that with 30 or 40 other people. So, our product's still selling hundreds of units every single month. So I think that should be encouraging for all you guys to see that, okay, well, Jungle Snugs is still doing fine, even though there's 30 or 40 or whatever new competitors. If I have 2 new competitors, it's not that big of a deal. Our return rates are really good. They're all below 3%. I think Jungle Snugs or Jungle Stix is even in the 1% area, which, again, by industry standards and marketplace standards, is very good. Is there anything else, Kim, that we think went well or we should add to this that aren't on the slides?
Well, I definitely think, figuring out how to launch in Europe and understanding VAT and all of the extra things that we did as part of the second part of the case study was, it was slightly more difficult because it was different and it was something that we didn't understand everything about before we started, but we still managed to find all the right information and do it anyway. So I think there's a really good lesson there that although selling internationally can sound scary, particularly from a VAT or accounting perspective, it's totally manageable. And many sellers do it and are taking those opportunities now. So
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I know everyone, when we started talking about, okay, we're going to launch a product in Europe, everyone was so worried with VAT. We had a million VAT questions. And it became very evident to us how scary VAT is for people. And that was really what was holding a lot of people back from starting to sell in Europe. So, Kim, do you remember what episode our VAT episode is? 6, 8?
6. Yeah.
6. So, yeah, guys, if you are worried about that, check out the $1 Million Case Study Europe edition, episode number 6, because we've essentially made the ultimate guide to VAT. Kim also did a really nice write-up on it, and I think once you read this and understand this, it will no longer be very scary for you guys because once you learn how it really works and you realize, okay, this isn't actually a big deal. It's not very scary. It's fairly clear cut. I think the reason that's so intimidating for everyone is just because there wasn't any high quality pieces of information on the internet to learn from. So that's kind of why we set out to create that. So don't let that scare you away. Some of the hiccups, and troubles along the way. With any business, there are going to be little problems or issues that you run into. I mean, that's just part of entrepreneurship, and that's part of owning businesses. And it's not a kind of like a transparent case study, or it's not fair to you guys if we don't share these things with you guys as well. So some of the things that I could say have been hiccups or maybe struggle with a little bit is our inventory management. Let's see, I think Jungle Stix ran out of stock once this year, so that's not too bad. Because I think the year before we ran out of stock like 3 times. The reason that I'll just preface this with saying the reason this is kind of challenging is because, when you're ordering a product from China and then you're having it shipped ocean, it takes a solid 2 months from the day you order it to get it into Amazon, and sometimes even longer than that. Sometimes like 2 months and a week, or 2 months and 2 weeks, or whatever. So the inventory management you have to do carefully, because you don't want to store too much in Amazon's warehouses. Otherwise, you start getting hit with the fees pretty bad. But if you run out of stock, that's of course, lost sales and lost revenue. So we did pretty good with the Jungle Stix. I think our fees overall were very low, and we ran out of stock once, which wasn't too bad. Our Jungle Snugs, we did run out. We've only placed 1 reorder with them, but we did run out of stock. I think for about a week with the white and pink. I don't think we ever went out of stock of all 3 variations, but we were kind of close. So yeah, that's something that over time it becomes easier to manage your inventory, because sales kind of like steady out. You kind of see, which seasons or months are high seasons for you. So it's a little bit easier to kind of like manage the inventory overall. What other hiccups have we run into, Kim?
So the comment there, need to be more proactive with admin tasks. So I guess that was, there's a few things with the Europe leg of the $1 million case study where, we could have applied for our Seller Central account sooner. We didn't realize that Amazon were going to sit on it for a few weeks before they approved it, which did cause some delays and minor frustrations. So we definitely could have avoided that by just signing up sooner. And I think, I've heard from a few other sellers as well that they run into similar issues, particularly when signing up for a Europe Seller Central account. So that's just one to be wary of. Give yourself at least a month, if not more, if you can. Even if you're doing your product research, maybe think about signing up for your account.
Right. Yeah, I didn't even really think about it because I've signed up for a couple of Amazon accounts in the past, and they essentially got approved in like a day. And I think on Amazon's website, it did say 5 to 10 days for account sign up, but we're like, okay, like we'll just do that down the road or whatever. So we signed up for, Kim's account, and I think it took over 3 weeks, closer to 4 weeks to actually get approved. They kept asking for more documents or clarification or whatever, and it just felt like we were going around in circles with their support team, which sometimes they can feel like that. So I guess that was frustrating with us because it did slow down our product launch. And looking back, it didn't need to, because we had, we started this whole process months ago, right? If we would have just signed up for our Seller Essential account then, it would be into Amazon and selling right now. So that was a little bit frustrating, but again, at the end of the day, not that big of a deal. It slowed down our launch a few weeks, but it'll still get in there and, still sell once it does. And I'd say it's one of the things that overall, I don't know if this is really a hiccup, but, kind of at Jungle Scout, this Amazon account kind of gets hung out to dry a little bit. We're all busy working on other things. And I guess this is kind of relatable to people who also have like full-time jobs. All of us, we spend our days working on Jungle Scout, making the software better, helping our customers, that kind of stuff. And we don't quite give our Amazon account too much love. So if we just spent a little bit more time, running some more A/B tests on it, updating our listings, sometimes we probably go a month without even logging into our Amazon account. No one really looks at it. It kind of is just left on the back burner. So probably if we gave it as much love as what a normal person does, I think a lot of our stuff could be doing a lot better as well. But hey, at the end of the day, we've still sold $500,000 worth of stuff, made over $100,000. So I guess we can't beat ourselves up over that too much.
Hey Greg, I know that we're donating our profits to charity, but if we weren't and this was just a regular FBA business, then maybe this would be a good time to start thinking about if you could outsource some tasks to like a virtual assistant or something, to try and ease up on the workload and make sure that these tasks are still done in a proactive manner. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And we should probably do something like that as well. Um, because that's a great point. Everyone watching this is busy. I'm sure people have kids to take care of, or full-time jobs, or other things going on in their business. So this is it's always good at the end of the year like this to kind of reflect on what you can do better the following year. And I think that's a great thing that we can do for our businesses. Have someone in charge of giving the account, the attention and the love that it deserves. And I'm sure, whatever we were to pay that person, it would probably pay for itself plus some. So that's a great point. All right. And that last comment was a perfect segue into this next one. What are our future plans? What's 2018 look like for our products? We're going to continue, the $1 million case study is still alive and well. We're halfway there, but we still have another $500,000 of sales to do. So we don't know exactly what all the things that we're going to do for the $1 million case study next year. We may transition from weekly 1-hour webinars into something a little bit different. I think some people get a little bit overwhelmed, seeing like an hour webinar, and they maybe wish it was split into little other snippets. So we might look at something like that. We likely will launch new products. We haven't started our product research for any new products yet, but that's something that we'll probably do in 2018 and will help us get to our $1 million goal. We get a lot of requests for expansion into other markets, specifically like Japan or India or the new Australia market or Canada or wherever else. So maybe that's something that we'll do. And then we can also talk more about non-Amazon marketing strategies. This is an interesting one because it's something that a lot of you guys ask about. But my personal opinion is most of these are kind of a waste of time. But with that being said, it'd still probably be fair to do some more research around them and more education, more case studies on what specifically works and doesn't work with them. So let us know in the chat box, what is working well or what you guys want to see for 2018. Help us shape the $1 million case study to best suit you. That's the whole purpose of this case study is A, to raise money for charity, and B, to give you guys the undisputed best educational resource on the web for growing your Amazon FBA business. What other plans do we have, Kim? What am I forgetting about here?
So we also have a really exciting new project in the pipeline for next year too, where, from all of your participation from the $1 million case study and all of our case studies, we've had such good words from everybody and lots of questions and comments and involvement from the community, which we really love to see. And we want to sort of take this one step further and drill down into those topics and those questions that you commonly ask us about. So in 2018, we will also be looking at a particular topic each month and providing you with high quality resources like you're used to from Jungle Scout on these topics. So yeah, we are also asking for your thoughts on the kinds of things that you want to hear about from us. So again, if you drop in the comments, if there's any particular topic about selling on Amazon that you really want to know more about in in lots more detail, then let us know.
All right. And we gathered a few of the popular questions from our blog and from our Facebook comments and other places. So a lot of them is essentially, how much money do I need to start this business, or how much money did you guys invest in it? Okay. And we did a blog post on this launch, like how much money do I need to start an Amazon FBA? And in order to do the private label thing, we did all the math, and essentially you need about $2,000 to private label a product, in my opinion. There's a lot of people that do it for less and are very successful. However, in my opinion, if I didn't have $2,000 to spend, I probably wouldn't do a private label product. I would probably look at other ways to make money on Amazon or just elsewhere on the internet or world. For our particular case study, this thing started with the marshmallow sticks. I think it was about $4,000 for us to start with our marshmallow sticks. And then since then, we've just reinvested profits, from that initial $4,000 investment to get to kind of where we're at today. The Jungle Snugs and the Jungle Slumber sleeping bags, they were both a few $1,000s, investment to order those products. But again, that wasn't necessarily cash out of our pocket, but more so just like reinvested profits from this particular little business. Another question is, where should I launch my first product? What are your thoughts on this, Kim?
So I think, so obviously the US still has the most demand, the most shoppers, but the competition is higher there, and that competition is growing. However, I would probably argue it's the easiest market to launch into as well, because there's kind of less things that you need to learn about. So things like VAT in Europe. So I think it depends on personal preference, but if you can find a profitable product opportunity, of which there are still many in the US, then that's definitely a good way to launch. And that the shoppers are there. Conversely, the marketplaces in Europe and in other places are growing. So that's a really good way to get in there early. It's like what Greg was saying earlier about the jungle sticks. We got in there early. So we've really sort of dominated that niche, and we've really planted our feet into the Amazon space for people looking for that product. So I think now is actually also a really good time to start doing that in other marketplaces, like in the UK and Germany as well. So I mean, I think it comes down to personal preference and maybe even where you're currently based as to what you feel most comfortable with. But I would definitely say US, Germany, or UK to start with. Would you
Yeah,
agree, Greg?
I would. And then I would just add to that all of these marketplaces have sufficient demand to be successful. So I'd probably add to that whatever seems the easiest for you or the lowest barrier of entry for you, that's the one that I would personally probably start on. So I think that's really good. The next question is, do I need a marketing budget? So yes and no. People, when they're budgeting about, like how much money to start with or how much cash they need to start with, they usually take into account the photography, which is, I think, a smart thing to do. If you do it yourself, this could be very inexpensive or next to nil. If you're paying a professional photographer, actually, you do need a budget for that to start. As far as a lot of people say, like, well, how much should I budget for PPC to start? And I guess one way that you have to kind of like think about or remember with that is, yes, it is factored into your overall profit. So it's important to understand, what the overall cost is. The cost for us of PPC based on our entire amount of revenue is about 5 or 6%. So you can use that number if you want. We gave you a number earlier that was like 17%, but that was of all of our costs. If you look at all of our revenue, it's about 5 or 6%. But something to keep in mind about PPC is that's not necessarily cash out of your pocket, because you can just, those costs can just be deducted from your overall revenue. So you don't necessarily need to have that cash. It's more so, I think it's more fair to kind of think about that as like an Amazon fee. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. What else do they need to know as far as marketing budgets?
Promotions.
Promotions would be a good one. Of course, to start off with promotions, we to get our product started, we start with promotions. Again, it's important to know that for kind of like your overall profit, especially like in yearly. However, again, if you're trying to figure out how much money you need to start with, keep in mind that you will have already have purchased that inventory. So again, it's not necessarily more cash you have to put into the business to run promotions. You're just making either not as much money or no money at all when you sell those at the discounted rate. So that's something you kind of think about a little bit more. With that being said, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. This is the last $1 million case study of 2017. You'll see us next in 2018. This has been a very exciting year. It's very cool to see that we've already gotten to about a little bit shy, but just about $500,000 in revenue, which that's a lot of money. That's pretty sweet, right? So it's very exciting to see. We've already made some great donations to Doctors Without Borders and Pencils of Promise. We're getting ready to do another one for Pencils of Promise so we can continue to build these schools in underprivileged countries. Hopefully you guys throughout the year have learned a ton from the $1 million case study, and it's not over yet. We still have another $500,000 to go. It just seemed like an appropriate time to kind of like wrap up, this particular year. What closing thoughts do you have for our audience, Kim?
Just thank you for joining and for all of your participation. It's really helped me to create the blog post that I'm putting out each week, and it's been great to speak to you all about your respective journeys too. Keep sharing those because it's really inspiring to hear from other people. That's part of the reason why we did the giveaway as part of this case study too. So yeah, keep sharing, and as always, let us know your comments and thoughts in the comments.
Sounds good. Kim, thank you for joining me. Everyone to the audience, I will see you again in 2018. Everyone have a great holiday season and take care. Bye.
Bye.